Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our panelists today. You know, as I've been listening to the discussion, one of the things that occurs to me first is that I think that there is significant alignment between the House-passed authorization and the NRC's recommendations. I'm a little troubled by the description of the pathway as so distinct from the roadmap, because I think in this committee, as the Chairman and I have envisioned what NASA would provide back to us, I don't see a lot of differences, frankly, in what you've outlined in your principles. But I view that as more semantics than anything, and we could certainly be more directive to NASA in that respect in terms of what it's going to provide back to this committee. I am curious as to whether you think it is appropriate for the committee to be prescriptive to NASA in terms of defining launch vehicles and specifications, interim destinations, and the like. I mean, you didn't do that in your panel report of experts, and so I'm curious as to whether you think that's an appropriate role for the Congress.
Well, it can't happen without the Congress ultimately, and but I think you make a very good point. This is probably not the optimal place for it to originate. What I think our committee would hope is that the Congress would unite around the idea that I just start with a very simple question: do you want to go to Mars or don't you? If you want to go to Mars, whether we like it or not, certain things would have to be done very, very differently, and in a very unnatural act for any democratically elected government where people come and go and change, would have to be sustained over this extraordinary, probably uniquely long time frame that this achievement would take. And we know what we're biting off, what would be biting off to do that. But I think that it would have to start with a Congress that perhaps requested, demanded a set of choices from NASA, pathway choices, embraced one, hopefully on the broadest possible basis so that it might have a chance of staying power over the years, something that people could look back on and say we'd be violating faith with this great adventure if we took a sudden detour the way and sent us off on some other direction the way they've been sent in the past. So I see that the central role, I think, would be Congress's, but probably not the place that it originates, or maybe not ideal.
So we shouldn't get into the nitty-gritty details of the technology and the science, but we could leave that to the experts, because I think that there has been a fair amount of unanimity on this committee, and you can see that in the authorization that passed, where I think we had only 2 dissenting votes in the Congress that said we have a big vision. We share that horizon goal of Mars, and we're going to enable NASA to have the opportunity to put some teeth to those proposals. I want to ask you about budget, because you know, if we all share that horizon goal, can you tell me, you know, just sort of ballpark, if you will, a budget that you think would be reflective of that goal, so that we're, you know, in the 20 to 30 year range instead of the 30 to 50 year range? Because we're at roughly 4.1, sort of $4.1, $4.3 billion now for exploration, and that doesn't include the ISS, et cetera.
Well, Jonathan had the first go at this, so let me give it a try also. I think that quite properly the committee didn't go beyond expressing bands and ranges. The starting point is the ultimate budget would be driven very much by the pathway chosen. There are pathways which would be substantially more expensive, more extensive, and therefore more destinations and so forth, more expensive than others. So that's the first uncertainty. And then we just didn't want to commit the sin of false precision and start producing numbers over these long time horizons that nobody would could be very confident.
So I don't think we want NASA committing to those sins either. But we do have to have a budget from the Congress and an appropriation from the Congress that reflects the kind of, big horizon goal that you've identified. Right. Isn't that right?
Sure. And so just to recap, the committee believes that this is a worthy endeavor, belongs on the list of national priorities, believes that Mars is the appropriate horizon goal. But just to reiterate something said earlier, the first and prerequisite step is the commitment to a pathway, and maybe if roadmap means pathway, that'd be great to know, because that would indicate this committee is maybe prepared to take this vital first step. With that in place, then the best we were able to say was that something beyond a flatline budget, not by a huge amount probably, but something beyond. We couldn't make the numbers work even for the least expensive pathways with constant dollars.
Great. Well, thank you. I've greatly gone over my time. I will just conclude just by saying to the chairman, and I hope that he understands this, that if we're really to commit to this goal, if the Congress is, this is not about nickeling and diming other programmatic missions within NASA. It's really committing to it as a nation and then putting the dollars that match the goal and the opportunity. And with that, I conclude. Thanks.